Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was unstoppable until that fateful night in 1975 when everything changed. It was a moment no one saw coming, a shocking turn of events that left his fans in disbelief. What could bring the seemingly invincible Elvis to his knees, collapsing on stage in front of thousands of devoted fans? And more importantly, what happened in the moments that followed? The truth behind this night reveals far more than just a health scare. It's a story of resilience, mystery, and a shocking aftermath that will leave you speechless. Stay with us as we unravel the unbelievable story behind this wild moment in Elvis Presley's history. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more incredible stories about the king of rock and roll. Number 5. Elvis in 1975, performing through pain. In 1975, Elvis Presley was still a dominant force in music, captivating audiences across the country with his legendary performances. However, beneath the surface, the king of rock and roll was fighting a quiet personal battle. Years of intense touring, a grueling schedule, and deteriorating health were beginning to take a toll on Elvis's body. His once electrifying energy on stage was fading, and those closest to him could see the physical and mental strain he was under. Despite suffering from chronic health issues, ranging from high blood pressure and liver damage to the dependency on prescription drugs, Elvis refused to slow down. He was determined to keep performing for his devoted fans, no matter the cost to his own well-being. Even as his health faltered, Elvis's dedication to his fans never wavered. Night after night, he would step onto the stage, ignoring the warnings of his doctors and the concerns of his inner circle. For Elvis, performing wasn't just a career, it was his lifeblood, a way to connect with the people who had supported him from the very beginning. Fans watched in awe as he continued to put on a show, unaware of the physical pain and exhaustion that was becoming harder to hide. His loyalty to his audience was unwavering, but it came at a steep price, a price that would become tragically clear on that fateful night in Asheville, North Carolina, when Elvis's body could no longer keep up with the demands he placed on it. Number 4. Buildup to the collapse. In the weeks leading up to the September 26, 1975 show, Elvis Presley was grappling with an increasingly punishing tour schedule. His performances had become more frequent, yet his body was no longer keeping pace with the demands of life on the road. The years of relentless touring and personal struggles had taken a visible toll. Elvis was often exhausted, showing signs of physical decline that worried those around him. He had moments where he looked bloated and sluggish, and his once dazzling stage presence seemed dimmed by the wear and tear of his grueling lifestyle. Yet, despite it all, Elvis was determined to press on, refusing to cancel performances or let his fans down, no matter how much his health was deteriorating behind the scenes. That night in Asheville, North Carolina, the atmosphere was electric. The fans, many of whom had followed Elvis's career since the beginning, were eager to see the king of rock and roll in action. The concert hall was filled with excitement and anticipation, with the crowd buzzing for what they believed would be another unforgettable Elvis performance. After all, even with his well-known struggles, Elvis had a reputation for putting on a show that never disappointed. As the lights dimmed and the familiar sound of his band filled the air, the audience cheered wildly, unaware that this night would unfold very differently from the Elvis performances they had come to expect. Number 3. The collapse on stage. As Elvis took the stage that night, it was clear something wasn't right. He appeared visibly weaker than usual, his movements slower, and his voice lacked the energy that had once electrified audiences. As he performed, fans could see him pausing more often, clutching the microphone stand for support, and frequently wiping sweat from his brow. His breathing was heavy and labored, each song seeming to take more out of him than the last. As the performance wore on, it became impossible to ignore that the king was struggling. His usual confident stage presence was slipping away, replaced by signs of a man who was physically and mentally exhausted. Then, suddenly, in a moment that would forever haunt those who witnessed it, Elvis staggered, his legs buckling beneath him, and collapsed onto the stage. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Members of Elvis's band and crew rushed to his side, helping him as he lay on the floor, struggling to regain his composure. The audience, stunned and confused, gasped in disbelief. This was not the invincible Elvis they had come to see. The band tried to cover for him, continuing to play softly as the stage crew gathered around him, but the tension in the air was palpable. Fans sat in stunned silence, unsure if what they were witnessing was part of the act or something far more serious. Whispers of concern spread through the crowd as they watched their idol being helped off stage. The sense of uncertainty was overwhelming. What had just happened? Would he come back? Was this a momentary stumble or something much worse? In the following moments, a sense of suspense gripped the audience. What could have caused such a sudden collapse? Many speculated about his well-documented health struggles, but no one could have predicted seeing Elvis Presley, one of the most celebrated performers in the world, fall in such a dramatic and public fashion. Fans were left in shock, anxiously waiting to see if this was the final straw in the King's career. Would this be the moment that forced him to confront his declining health and step away from the spotlight? Or was it just another chapter in the relentless drive that had kept him performing, no matter the cost? Number 2. Aftermath. What happened next? Backstage, the scene was one of controlled chaos. As Elvis was helped off the stage, his entourage and medical team quickly surrounded him, trying to assess the severity of his condition. He was pale, out of breath, and struggling to regain his composure. There was immediate concern over whether he needed to be rushed to the hospital. His longtime associates, those who had seen him push through tough performances before, were worried that this might be more than just a passing moment of exhaustion. Elvis, ever the performer, insisted that he just needed a few minutes to rest, brushing off their concerns even as they hovered around him. Questions swirled behind the scenes. Was this it? Would he recover enough to go back out? Or was the show truly over? In a shocking turn of events, Elvis refused to end the concert on that note. Against the advice of those closest to him, he gathered enough strength to return to the stage later that night. When he emerged from backstage, the crowd erupted in a mix of relief and disbelief. Their king had returned, defying the fears that his collapse had sparked. Despite his weakened state, Elvis continued the performance, though the energy was notably different. Fans could see that he wasn't the same unstoppable force they were used to, but his sheer will to finish the show won their admiration. Even with his body betraying him, Elvis pushed through, offering the audience a glimpse of the man who refused to let anything stand between him and his love for performing. Yet, this night was more than just a health scare. It was symbolic of the toll Elvis's lifestyle had taken on him over the years. The collapse was a physical manifestation of the pressures he had been under for so long. Years of grueling tours, a dependency on prescription drugs to keep up with the demands of fame, and the mental weight of living up to the expectations placed on him were all finally catching up. His body could no longer endure the relentless pace he had set for himself. While the fans may have cheered his return that night, it was clear to those closest to him that Elvis was fighting a battle far more serious than the one on stage. It was a battle for his health, his future, and, ultimately, his life. Number 1. Elvis's declining health in the following years. As the years progressed after that fateful night in 1975, Elvis's health continued to decline at an alarming rate. That collapse on stage wasn't an isolated incident. It marked the beginning of a series of troubling moments that reflected his growing vulnerability. Fans, and those closest to him, started noticing more frequent signs of his physical struggles. Reports of Elvis cutting performances short, slurring his words, or appearing disoriented on stage began to surface. He battled with a growing dependence on prescription medications, which were meant to help him cope with his constant pain and exhaustion, but only exacerbated his condition. By the time 1977 arrived, Elvis's body was breaking down, and though he continued to perform, the spark that once defined him was fading. Tragically, his decline would reach its heartbreaking end on August 16, 1977, when the world lost the king of rock and roll. Despite his health struggles, Elvis Presley's legacy remained untouchable. Even as he fought his personal battles, the love and adoration from his fans never wavered. They continued to flock to his concerts, buy his records, and support him, regardless of the growing concerns about his well-being. Elvis represented something greater than just his music. He was a cultural icon, a symbol of a generation, and the embodiment of the American dream. His charisma, talent, and impact on the music industry made him larger than life, and even in his darkest moments, the world still saw him as the king. His untimely death only cemented his place in history, forever immortalizing him as a figure who transcended music and left a lasting impression on the world. The collapse in 1975 would go on to become a defining moment in the narrative of Elvis's later years. It wasn't just a sign of his declining health, it was a pivotal point in his career, sparking speculation and concern from both fans and the media. Was it the result of the immense pressure he placed on himself, or was it a warning of something far more serious? As the years passed, this moment took on even greater significance, fueling rumors and theories about Elvis's state of mind and his struggle to balance fame with his deteriorating condition. It was a reminder that even the greatest performers are still human, vulnerable to the pressures of their success. This collapse wasn't just a stumble on stage. It was a moment that foreshadowed the tragic end of an era. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this pivotal moment in Elvis Presley's life. What do you think led to his collapse that night? Was it the pressure of fame, his health struggles, or something else entirely? Share your opinions and insights in the comments below. We can't wait to see what you have to say about this unforgettable chapter in the King's legacy. And don't forget to let us know how you remember Elvis during this time in his career.